Welcome to the Contractor Business Development Series Financial and Strategic Planning webinar.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Carol Henry. Over the past 20 years, Merriwether and Williams Insurance Services has administered contractor development programs enabling small, minority, women, and disabled veteran-owned companies to bid on public work. The programs administered by Merriwether and Williams Services differ slightly, but contain the following elements. Assessment. We do a one-on-one consultation to determine individual contractors' strengths and opportunities for growth. We also sit down with you to customize a contractor strategic development plan to support you where support is needed. In terms of education, we have specialized classes on all aspects of running a successful contracting business, training by industry experts on public construction best practices, personal account managers to assist you in step-by-step through the development process, and technical assistance. When applicable, subsidies for contractors to have their financial statements professionally reviewed and put in order by construction accounting versus CPAs. Collateral guarantees so that contractors can secure contract financing and bonds. Assistance in obtaining or increasing your bonding capacity. Funds administration to ensure that contractors have a solid project, funds management, and risk mitigation. Assistance with project risk identification and mitigation, individual scope review, project assessment, and field support for program bonded contracts. For more information on our programs, please visit our website at www.imwis.com, or you can email us at CDP at imwis.com or CTAP, CTAP at imwis.com. And with that, I will turn it over to our contract-based finance project manager and the presenter for today's webinar, John Miller.
Thank you very much, Carol. Your summary of the CDP program really dovetails well with the material we're going to present today. And if Lila will put that up, we'll get busy with the presentation here. This presentation is really designed to focus in on areas of the contracting business that are a specific threat to the longevity and the success of construction companies. And what we'd like to do is to, again, dovetail that with a description of the services we provide. And I will be taking questions periodically throughout the presentation. Please feel free to participate. If I don't have an answer, we'll get you one. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the content. If you'll go to the second slide. Okay, so what we like to do is to start this talk off by setting the stage with some contracting industry realities. The truth of the matter is, year in and year out, perennially, business failures by contractors are led by a lack of working capital, poor contract performance, and that's not delivering shoddy work. When we talk about poor contract performance, that's poor profitability results on the contracts that they perform. And then a failure to plan, both short-term and long-term. These three business failure reasons not only are a threat to small firms, but also to larger firms. So I like to try to draw a correlation between what we're going to present today and these three areas of concern that need to be addressed in order to have a successful contracting venture. You know, statistically, 20% of construction firms fail in the first year of their operation, and 50% fail within 5 years. And very often those failures, again, as I say, are tied to these three key issues: lack of capital, poor contract performance, and managing with a plan. The second statistic is actually that only 10% or only 30% of the contracts that are bid and prosecuted come within 10% of their actual budget. So some of the things we're going to talk about today are geared to help you not only bid effectively, but to bring contracts in on their targeted budgets. And the third bullet point on the previous slide that I wanted to hit statistically is that Contractors that operate with a plan are more than twice as likely to succeed, to grow, and to prosper. So we're going to hit on all of those areas today. Okay, if we can go to slide number 2 or 3, please. There we are. Okay, so we're going to break our presentation into cash management, project planning and execution, and managing the business and profit model with a strategic marketing plan. Our approach throughout the Contractor Development Program and the CTAP program is to work with you and to stress the fact that this is a continuous process of improvement, of adopting and carrying out best practices in managing your finances, in managing project performance, and strategic planning in order to deliver projects on time and on budget. Next slide, please. So just jumping into that first bin, that lack of capital, the lack of available working capital, and knowing what your financial position as a major basis for contractor failure. Cash management, from our perspective, is your understanding of your financial reporting, okay? That would be your balance sheet and income statement or P&L, your work in process reporting, cash flow projecting, knowing the difference between marking a project up and the actual margin of profit that you will earn on the project. Job cost status reporting starting at the field level and flowing back up to the home office. The development and prompt submission of your pay applications and timing of payments, and understanding the impact of change orders and how to document them. So starting really from the top there, that balance sheet and income statement is a snapshot in time that you would manage your company by. For those of you who are recently starting your business or who have been in business for some time, you know, the lead up activities to developing a financial statement can be something as simple as getting your bank accounts set up, checking and savings account for the business, specifically for the business, a dedicated payroll account, then selecting a method of accounting. We can work with you in selecting a method of accounting. Many of you will have started up your businesses and set them up on a cash basis of accounting, and that's fine for getting started. But the cash basis of accounting really is only a record of when cash goes out and when cash hits your financial statement. What you really need, and we can work with you again internally with our own resources, as well as third-party resources, to make sure that you have a proper accrual-based accounting system so that you can track both cost expenditures as they occur and income events as they occur, and track all of that through your balance sheet and your income statement or profit and loss report. The schedule of work in process is an integral part of your financial reporting and understanding your balance sheet and P&L. The schedule of work in process essentially covers not only the open contracts and their total value, but it also covers the original costs of those contracts, your cost to date, your billings to date, and your revised estimated cost to complete. And when we work with you to take you through how to do a schedule of work in process spreadsheet, which, by the way, we have set up on an Excel format, we can actually work with you to calculate those items that would then typically find their way into your balance sheet and your P&L, such as over and under billings on open contracts, earned income, which would on open contracts that would then hit your P&L, hit it in a positive way. And so the schedule of work in process is a very important management tool. I mentioned that the balance sheet and the income statement are a snapshot in time. The schedule of work in process is how you keep yourself current on what's happening with your backlog of open contracts. Cash flow projecting. This is an essential element to managing your company on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. Cash flow projecting may sound complicated, but it's really nothing more than using your balance sheet as a management tool to identify what your beginning cash position is for at any point in time. And then essentially on the cash flow projection, mapping out your cash outlays on open contracts, your income as it comes in on open contracts, and what your ending cash position for, say, a period of a week, a period of a month, a period of a quarter, so on and so forth. So cash flow projecting flows up to work in process, schedule development, which then finds its way to the balance sheet. These are all very essential core management tools that we think mitigate the risk that your financial picture may get out of control before you know about it and can take corrective measures. Now, concerning the difference between markup and margin, I don't know how many times in my 44 years in this business, I've sat down with a contractor, especially newer contractors, and said, look, what kind of a profit picture are you projecting on your backlog of work, and how do you arrive at putting profit on your contracts? And often a contractor will say, well, I take my costs, I total them up, and I put 20% or 25%, and that's what's going to be my margin. And that's just really not how it works. The difference between markup and margin is something that's very important for everyone to understand if you're going to have a successful contracting operation. If you have, say, for example, $100,000 of hard dollar cost on a project, and you want to earn 20% profit or margin, you need to mark that $100,000 up by 25% or $25,000. The total contract price of $125,000 divided by your $25,000 markup gives you 20% margin on that project. It's a twist of math that's been around there for as long as I've been around here for as long as I've been in the business. I can't explain it to you, but in order to achieve a 20% profit margin, if that's your goal, you need to be able to mark up the project by 25%. And it kind of holds in that same pattern. If you can put 30% markup on it, you're going to generate 25% profit margin. So very important part of the training that we take our local business enterprises through, and very important that you are knowledgeable in this area and comfortable with that kind of a factor. Job cost status reporting. We provide field support through our program, through our Contractor Development Program, to help you with proper job cost status reporting at the field level, weekly, monthly. These job cost status reports essentially, again, flow up to your cash flow projection. You're tracking costs as they occur through your projection. And when you see job costs increasing unexpectedly, for example, and probably the most volatile part of most of your contracts is the payroll budget. You see swings in costs associated with payroll. You by doing current job cost reporting, you're going to see those when they occur, and you can take the appropriate action to either understand what it is and what you need to do to mitigate that exposure, or to make changes in how you're prosecuting the work, your means and methods, so on and so forth. So current job cost reporting on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis is highly important. And again, our technical assistance programs can help you in formatting such reporting. The timely submission of pay applications, preparing that AIA 703, which flows to the 702, which then ties out to your schedule of values and is submitted on or about the 25th of every month to either the project owner or the prime, depending on who you're contracting with. That pay application management and timing of payments is essential to managing cash. And we have extensive experience in this area to help you get those forms properly filled out, so they, on submission, they don't get turned around for errors or mistakes, which slows down the payment cycle, which is already long enough. It's either going to be 30, 45, sometimes 60 days, depending on your contract terms. So you want to make your pay applications, you want to submit them timely in conjunction with your contract, and you want to have them right going in. And then, of course, the impact of change orders. Change orders have been the demise of many contractors who didn't properly document the impact of either change orders that they saw as being necessary in order to prosecute the work as contracted. In other words, you see something that needs to be done some action that needs to be taken. It's going to increase your costs in order to build to specification. You need to have a conversation, obviously, with the project owner or prime contractor about that kind of an event, and to make absolutely certain that the cost factors associated with change orders that are driven by your reaction to problems in the field are properly documented so that they can then be sold to the project owner or prime. In some instances, field change orders contractually are going to be required of you, and you will have to actually take action to perform those change orders that are authorized in the field before you ever really get a chance to get any kind of formal confirmation from the project owner or the prime that the change order is approved. In that case, your documentation is again highly, highly important. And there are some great tips that we teach in our technical assistance program for making sure that you properly document the costs and position yourself to sell the change order. So balance sheet and income statement, schedule work in process, cash flow projecting, understanding the difference between markup and margin, effective and timely job cost reporting, effective management of pay applications and their submission, and documenting the impact of change orders. These are all cash management techniques that we believe will mitigate the risks associated with that number one cause, or the first bullet point cause of contractor failure, which is lack of adequate capital to prosecute the work. So with that, I'll open the floor at this point for question and answers before we move on to the next slide. So go ahead and ask questions. I'll pause here.
Okay. Thank you so much, John. Just like John said, please feel free to go ahead and type in your questions, or we do have the option to go ahead and click on the raise hand tab, and I'll give you the permission to voice your questions verbally to John, and he'll be happy to answer them. So yeah, the floor is open to you guys, and feel free to do whatever you're more comfortable with. Thank you.
I might add, while we're, did the question come through?
Not yet, but I'll let you know, John.
Okay, very good. I might add here, as Carol pointed out, our technical assistance program is an assessment-based program. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we talk about developing a marketing plan or a business development strategy a little later on in today's presentation. But when we sit down and work with a contractor to assess where they are in terms of their cash management skills, of their understanding of how to use their financial reporting as an effective management tool, we try to inventory the areas of strength that you may have in that particular vein and emphasize those strengths, identify weaknesses and address those weaknesses, and come up with a set of best practices that you can implement in order to try to mitigate that lack of capital or the threat of not having adequate working capital to prosecute the work that you do.
Thank you, John. Really appreciate that. We do have a raised hand over here, so I'm going to go ahead and William Brown, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. So I believe you have permission to talk. And go ahead and talk. Hopefully that works. If it doesn't work, just give me a chat, send me a chat and let me know if something's not working. But I went ahead and I asked you to unmute, so you should be unable to talk now.
Yes, good evening or good afternoon. My question is on the impact of change orders. We're on a project with BART, and it seems like we're getting impact real hard as far as getting payments on the change orders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got a base bid, just like anybody who bids in public works. We have a base bid, and we're running on fumes because of the impact of the change orders, and the payments on the change orders are not keeping up with the base bid. It's not keeping up with the monthly payments.
Yes, yes.
So I believe that I understand that Public Works have their protocol on paying on change orders, but I believe change orders is what really hurts contractors. They're not paid within 30 to 60 days.
Right.
And with that, carrying that weight, the project needs to be done. Change orders need to be done in order for it to be completed. And that's where I think Public Works, no matter if it's municipal or county or state or whatever, needs to catch up, because that's what hurts contractors. If we do let's say a scope of work that's $10,000, that's $10,000 that wasn't expected on the base bid. So if you're carrying it out like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or even after the project is finished and you finally getting paid, that's a hit.
It sure is. And, it's a systemic problem with a lot of these project owners. Your base bid is fully baked, if you will. An owner-driven change order, or even a change order that you recommend because of the need to capture cost associated with trying to do the work as specified that wasn't originally anticipated, okay? Obviously, your first level of defense in being effective and getting those change orders approved is to getting them properly documented, as I'm mentioning here. And I have no doubt, William, that you do the best job you possibly can in documenting the costs associated with those change orders. The next thing is, I'll probably tell you the obvious, but your contracting officer has got to be somewhat of an advocate for you, especially if they're owner-driven change orders that you're strapped with, okay? You've done everything you can to document the costs associated with it and the impact on your company, and you've submitted the change order per whatever guidelines. I would think that you've got to be able to get some advocacy in that realm. Unfortunately, BART is not, of the agencies that we typically are working with here in the Contractor Development Program. I'm talking about the Chapter 6 agencies. I'm talking about Metro, DPW, SFPUC, the Port, SFO, recently MOHCD, Park and Rec. We do have some advocacy power through the Contract Monitoring Division. And I would be willing, as a follow-on to this discussion today, you'll have my contacts. I would be willing to explore what we might be able to do for you from an advocacy standpoint where BART is concerned. It's a little out of my pay grade, but it's something that we could pursue.
Okay, I appreciate that, John. Like I said, I think that's the very much impact, getting back to what you explain, how contractors go out of business.
Yep.
It hits on that point. It's not that they cannot finish the contract, but the profitability and be able to stay in business fall hand in hand on how contractors get out, lose their business, is because of the change orders.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think, anybody can make a slight argument. Well, we wanted 10% profit and we ended up with maybe 4%. Well, you still made a profit. But like I said, I think the change orders is very much of a impact on contracting.
No question about it. One other point I'll make before we move on here or take another question, William, it's very important that in examining your contract documents at the get-go, that you may be limited to how much you can mark up a change order. You may not be able to mark it up the way you marked up the overall project to start with. So it's even more important on a day-by-day basis, on a week-by-week basis, on a month-by-month basis, that you are monitoring your costs, because you may be asked to perform change order work at a markup that is less than what you would normally put on your projects. We see that contract provision all the time.
Yes, and you're right about that. It is always less than the actual operating cost, and the markups for the labor, or the markups percentage for the material. My thing is the way the public works contracts are. We've been in business going on 18 years, and the way I see it is, it's almost like a forced account where it needs to get done. You have to get it done, and you're stuck with the terms of what the percentage markups for the labor and material and equipment.
Yep. Yeah, it can be pretty thin in the final analysis. Okay, are there any other questions out there that I can answer at this juncture? Otherwise, I'll move on.
Hi,
Yeah.
Hi, John. There are no questions at this moment, but thank you so much, William. Really appreciate it. And I'll let you move on to your next portion of your presentation. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next page then. There we are. Okay.
There we are.
There we are. Bingo. Thank you. Okay, going back to those root causes of contractor failure, the second one is poor project performance. And as I said in my opening remarks, it has nothing to do with the quality of the work you deliver. It's poor performance from a standpoint of profitability. So in project planning and execution, it really starts with the how-to of select the appropriate project for your firm. You've got a background in contracting that encompasses a certain scope of knowledge and experience. You've got resources available to you within your company that are specifically, many times specifically, going to be more effective on the right project, or if you're selecting the right project. And making sure, and project selecting the right project, I should say, also hinges on your familiarity with the project owner or the prime contractor. So if you're an electrical subcontractor, as an example, or a HVAC subcontractor, your background may be not only in bidding and estimating that type of work and supervising it, and but you might only really want to select projects that are within your wheelhouse. You might not go into high-tech IT type electrical work if you're an electrical contractor with all of its special requirements for power on shutdowns and different aspects of project performance that would be outside of your normal electrical contracting activities. So selecting the right project is a key to getting yourself positioned for good project performance. Bidding and estimating, whether that skill is in-house or something that you access through third parties. By the way, we have excellent bidding and estimating expertise as part of our extended CDP team that we can bring to you as a resource. That expense can be partially subsidized through city programs, so that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, scheduling, many of you are going to be tied to the master schedule on the projects that you're bidding if you're bidding as a subcontractor, but being able to look at the schedule and schedule impacts on your cash needs and your resources in the way of manpower and personnel, the availability of materials and equipment. Scheduling impacts, super important to understand in order to guarantee good project performance. Your buyout process, long-standing solid relationships with material suppliers, equipment suppliers, and other subcontractors. That buyout process is an essential part of making sure that you can adequately perform on a contract. A carryover from my previous points, this job cost status reporting, I won't go into great depth on that, but again, project planning and execution requires great standards of practice and job cost reporting, and then carrying it out in the field. Being able to put together your general conditions and your general requirements. You know, those general conditions are cost factors to you. I'm talking about if you're operating as a small prime contractor, you're going to have general conditions tied to maintaining the site, debris removal, ingress, egress, dust suppression, perhaps. I'm just citing a few. Administrative offices, getting power to the site, sanitation. Those general conditions all need to be well documented and well built out and scheduled and properly costed. These are things that you don't leave behind as part of the project, but they're nevertheless direct frictional costs that you're going to bear in order to carry the project out. Our field support team has an excellent protocol, if you will, or process for documenting your general conditions, as well as allocating your general requirements, which would be that portion of your overhead that you would allocate to a specific project. So a failure to properly document your general conditions and to allocate your general requirements very often leads to poor project performance, and we're here to help you adopt best standards of practice in that area. Again, a carryover from my previous comments, managing your pay application process. Getting those pay apps in on or about the 25th or whatever point in time you're required, making sure that they're completely accurate, and that sort of things. Your change order logs, again, a carryover, but very, very important. And then you don't want to get to the end of the project and have a whole long list of punch list items, long list of punch list items. Project closeout. We've got, again, training that we can provide, technical assistance we can provide, and standards of best practice for making that project closeout go smoothly and avoiding long punch list items. So when it comes to being competitive throughout the project performance process, we think these are high points that need to be focused on in training and technical assistance. And I would be happy to take questions on this slide at this point, if anybody has any questions about project performance.
Hey, thank you, John. There are no questions at this moment, but I'm going to allow folks, give folks some time to type out their questions, especially off of based off the information you just presented. So appreciate that. Like I said before, if you do want to voice your questions verbally, please do click on the raise hand button, and I will give you the permission to speak, and you can verbally voice your questions to John. Or you do have the option to to type in your question in the Q&A feature. If you're having trouble with the Q&A feature, go ahead and type it in the chat, and I'll go ahead and voice it to John as well. So you have both of those options, and you can ask your questions anonymously if you choose to, if that's something you're interested in doing. But whichever works for us as well, we'll be happy to answer your questions. So we'll give folks a little more time to, I guess, type in or raise their hands, John. I don't have any questions coming in through right at this moment, but I'll let you know if they do come through shortly.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, again, just one final comment I'll make here. This project planning and execution, we say it starts with the how-to of these items right here. It really hinges on having systems and processes in place so that you know about a problem during the course of construction as it is arising, so you can take immediate action. And that's really just so important. I mean, if you select the right project for your firm, you get your bidding and your estimating right, you understand the schedule, but then don't recognize when, and it is construction that you're doing, problems do arise in the field. If you don't recognize those problems early, then all of that front end work that you've done can just be for nothing almost at the end of the day. So that's one final comment I'll make on this slide. And if we have questions, if we don't, I'll move to the next.
No questions at this moment, John.
Okay, very good. All right, the next area that we're going to discuss is this idea of strategic planning. And this is an area of the discussion that I really like. All of the nuts and bolts of cash management and project performance, this is where obviously the rubber kind of meets the road. But from a short-term standpoint and a long-term standpoint, this idea of recognizing that you have challenges as a business. We've talked all afternoon now about the fact that you've got challenges in the financial area, in the capital management area, in the operational area, in the field, okay? And you've got challenges facing you in terms of getting new customers, keeping them happy, and getting repeat work. So with that, we'll launch into a discussion of the strategic planning piece of the presentation today. Next slide, please. So good, solid strategic planning really positions you to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities you have in the marketplace, and threats to a successful client relationship or owner relationship. This is called SWOT analysis. It's not new. I first learned about it in, well, a long time ago, the early 80s probably. But the SWOT analysis remains a very effective tool, and it's very much a part of our contract-based assessment, our contractor-based assessment program, where we look at the strengths that you bring to the table, the weaknesses that you have in your organization, the area of the market that you want to address in terms of where your opportunities are, and specific client opportunities. With an effective SWOT analysis, you can then develop your business model, which links to an understanding of your profit model and the development of a strategic marketing plan. Okay, next slide, please. Strategic planning really focuses your company or focuses on your company's structure, its value proposition. This is your opportunity. These are your opportunities in the marketplace, and a strategy for getting new customers and keeping those customers, addressing customer needs for all intent and purpose. Next slide, please. So again, keying off of structure, value proposition, and target market, a SWOT analysis preceding your business model, the development of your business model. And we call it a business model canvas because at the end of this process, you're going to have all of this on one sheet of paper where it's easily understood by you and communicated to your team. So your company structure is defined as who your key partners are. The Contractor Development Program and the CTAP program would like to be a key partner to you in going forward in terms of providing technical assistance and opening the doors to various programs that we have. But other key partners would be your CPA or your in-house accountant, okay? Another key partner might be your insurance broker or your surety broker. They might be one and the same. Or legal counsel. You could have outside estimating and outside scheduling services that you work with. Those are the key partners that then become part of your company structure. And if you have most or all of that in-house, all the better. The company structure is also defined by the activities you perform. If you're an electrical contractor, obviously you're in the business of doing electrical construction and so on and so forth. Having those activities properly identified as being your specialty or your sweet spot and working that into your business model carries over into how you go out and find new opportunities in the marketplace and work with new customers in the form of prime contractors and project owners. And of course, the resources that you have to support the company structure starts right there with your key employees, from your supervision to your foreman in the field, to the apprentice corps, to your backroom staff that helps you with your office management process. Sometimes I know as a small contractor that you might wear all of those hats. That's fine, but understanding that key resources need to be inventoried and aligned properly with those projects that you select, and it really becomes a key part of your business model as pertains to your company's structure. The value proposition, which is essentially, you know, when I talk to contractors who are just breaking into the business, a lot of them were maybe a foreman or a key employee for another firm. And when they thought about what they would like to do in terms of breaking off on their own, they'd say, gee, if I was in business for myself, I would do this. that I'm unable to do in my current situation with respect to bringing value to a target customer, okay? I mean, your value proposition might be based on something as simple as all that it takes to deliver on-time work and on-budget work, which is obviously valued by your clients, okay? Looking at things like total quality management and implementing certain aspects of TQM within your own organization and properly aligning your TQM practices with the TQM practices that may be dictated by project owners or prime contractors, becoming familiar with all of that. We've had contractors who have done their research and their homework on LEED compliance and certification to participate on LEED designated projects. So your value proposition hinges on what differentiates you in the marketplace. And the last point I'll make under value proposition that is so important to me is this idea of innovation. You know, 70% of all the innovation that takes place in the construction industry happens at the field level. It typically happens at the specialty contractor level. And so your recognition of where you can innovate and actually implement means and methods that ultimately saves the project owner or prime contractor money in the long run is a key component potentially to your value proposition. And by the way, as I go through these, understand that as you're looking at company structure and value proposition, these three little bullets that I include on each one of these is only a suggested path to go down. As we do the analysis of your business and develop a business model, there are dozens of paths we can go down in order to bring definition to structure and value proposition. And certainly in the area of target market, the same holds true. Just breaking down target market needs, you have certain customers that are only going to contract with you on a lump sum hard bid basis. They have needs associated with needing to contract on that basis. And so you need to understand what those needs specifically are and be effective in that type of a contractual arrangement. You may be looking at design build with certain owners who have a different need. You may be looking at fast track construction, again, a different need. You may be looking at labor service agreements, labor only contracts, or material supply contracts. This type of thing all represents a different need on the part of the project owner that you need to be tuned into and incorporate into your strategy for accessing and targeting that type of economic buyer. Okay, service channels or touches, and this really starts with pre-qualification, looking at the needs of your target market. I don't know of a prime contractor in the metropolitan area here in San Francisco that doesn't pre-qualify all of the contractors they work with. And that pre-qualification process represents a really great chance for you to begin to understand what the needs of your potential client are. They're going to look at your experience, risk modification. They're going to be looking at your history of litigation. They're going to be looking at your financials. Very often your work in process. They're going to want a thorough description of your background and experience, all the things we talk about in our technical assistance program. But that pre-qualification onto the process of looking at and bidding work to that owner, if you do get pre-qualified, bidding and being awarded the work, negotiating your final contract terms, the submittal process, mobilization, actually prosecuting the contract and closeout. All of those areas that I just mentioned represent opportunities for touches and opportunities for you to further understand the needs of your client so that you can transform that into not only a successful contract, but also successful future work where they'll come back to you and want to buy work from you if you are operating as a subcontractor. And then, of course, the old adage of best value. How do you describe and deliver on best value, understanding what your target market customer considers to be best value? Ask the question. It's a good question to ask right up front. So again, the SWOT analysis, which precedes the business model, development. The business model is based upon these three quadrants, if you will, of examination, and understand that the activities of your business model lead to frictional costs, okay, which will lead now to our discussion briefly of your profit model. If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the business model is constructed on your structure, your value proposition, and target market strategy. It links to your profit model, and this is where contracting is always so interesting to me, because your profit model as a contractor is one of the simplest profit models out there. It's costs plus markup equals profit. But delivering on all of that is really very difficult because of all of the complications of the construction process. You have the best chance of delivering on your profit model consistently if you're able to adopt standards of practice in each of the areas that I'm talking about today. Long-term, they're going to pay dividends. So when you take your business model, your profit model, and you incorporate all of that into a marketing plan that clearly states what your objectives are, short-term and long-term, your goals, milestones and measurements. This is how you get to the point of being able to operate with a plan and to make periodic adjustments to that plan, and it better positions you to be successful in the marketplace. Okay, next slide, please. So I wanted to mention that our program also includes the following, and Carol touched on this in her introduction. I'm really glad she did, because the more we talk about it, the better it's going to be for you. We have in our technical assistance program, we have a fast track approach. That means not long drawn out, but truly fast track approach to delivering on these three areas of cash, project management, and strategic planning, so that we can position you to participate in our surety bond guarantee and contract financing programs. You know, the hurdles to participating in these programs are far less than you would encounter in the commercial market if you were out trying to negotiate a line of bond credit without surety bond guarantee support, or to negotiate bank lines of credit prior to having established a track record with us of having successfully obtained a loan to cover the working capital needs on your project, repaid that loan successfully, and perhaps done 2 or 3 of those before you actually go out and try to negotiate with commercial lenders. So our program focuses on the end result of getting you the tools that you need in order to compete successfully in the bonding and in the contract finance areas. I wanted to also stress the fact that this contract review, we don't offer legal advice, but one of the great stumbling blocks to contractors as they're developing is really understanding not only the terms and conditions as they're written, but the impact of certain terms and conditions of the contracts that they're signing. Flow down provisions are key. And to also understand that you may be required by contract to, for example, submit your pay applications electronically and back charged for that. To know that as a provision in your contract is a way to avoid a problem for not having potentially included that as a cost factor in your bid to that prime contractor. Again, one of those things you can figure out on one of your early touches with a contractor. If I were successful in landing a project with you, would I be asked to participate in an electronic pay application process? And if so, what does it cost? You want to build that into your bid to that particular project owner or prime contractor. And then again, a fast track approach to helping you hone or further refine your skills in estimating and schedule preparation. Again, this is we rely on a long time tested, solid third-party experts that work with us, some for up to 20 years now, in this area. So we're prepared to bring that type of support to you as well. Okay, I wanted to mention those 3 things. So if we can go to the next slide. You know, I use the term the code can be cracked. The code can be cracked on managing your company from a capital management standpoint. and the availability of loans and bonding support through working with us at Merriwether Williams. Okay. You know, you can crack the code on effective project management at both the field level and home office level if we can work with you to adopt some of the best practices associated with what I've outlined today. And we also believe that developing and managing with a plan is really the key to long-term success. Next slide, please. This will kind of pull it all together. Having said this, our program, we hope, sets the stage for ultimately your commercial independence. No longer needing the technical assistance or the support of surety bond guarantees or contract-based finance. You'll outstrip our capacity in those areas and be off and running. We believe our program sets the stage for projects delivered on time and on budget and that function as intended. And we also believe that the long-term reward for putting the time in now far outweighs the risks associated with some of those factors I outlined in my opening slide. So with that, I'll be happy to turn it over for additional questions and answers. If you can go to the next slide, I think our contacts are on the next slide. There you go. While you're looking at that, if I can answer any additional questions, I'm more than happy to. So Merriwether and Williams, as Carol mentioned, has been in this process of working with local business enterprises now for over 20 years. We're very passionate about the scope of services that we bring to contractors. And, you know, from time to time, we'll encounter problems that are difficult or different than what I've actually outlined here today. But I think a combination of our internal resources and our external resources provide a real good opportunity for us to address your needs. And I'm very interested in following up on William's question. William, if you are still on and will contact me at my email address here, I will see what type of resources I might be able to bring to your discussion with the BART folks. No guarantees, but I certainly understand what you're up against. And I'd be very happy to see what we can do to perhaps smooth things out for you. So that would be, thank you all very much. And that would be kind of my concluding remarks for today.
That's great, John. Thank you. I do have a raised hand from William, so I'm going to go ahead and give him the permission to talk.
Hello. I was just wondering, could I get this presentation in a PDF? I think some of the bullet points I would like to keep for later references.
Absolutely. We'll be sending out an email to all the attendees, and you'll have this as a resource. So you'll have this this PowerPoint in PDF format, and you can use it anytime. You can use it anytime as a resource for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you. I would like to thank everybody who attended, especially the attendees and the speakers. You know, we really appreciate your time on this Tuesday, especially after the holiday weekend. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here in attendance. We appreciate teaching you, especially John has so much knowledge to share. We appreciate your time here. So thank you so much. We do have our seasonal programs, our seasonal newsletters, which are based off of Merriwether and Williams programs that is filled with a bunch of information, as well as, you know, the videos that we share on YouTube is filled with a bunch of information as well, and resources that are really catered to you. So look out for that. That's upcoming.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Have a great afternoon. Bye.